Hi, this is Mrs. Tiglis, and today I am going to explain to you equivalent negative fractions. Please make sure that you have your notes loaded and you write down everything that I write. All right, as a quick review, let's remember that there are two ways that we already know about writing division. The first way is to use the standard division sign, 6 divided by 2. But we also know that we can use a fraction to represent division. Remember, a fraction always means to divide. So 6 divided by 2, or the fraction 6 over 2, will result in the same answer, of course, of 3. Okay. All right, this next slide here talks about a common mistake, and this is something that we see all the time. Whenever we see a negative in front of a fraction, students will say, does that mean the 8 is negative, the 4 is negative, or both? I'm kind of confused what that means. Okay, so let's think about what this could mean. So again, we're looking at, there's a negative out front of a whole fraction. And if we have negative 8 over 4, remember the negative sign always means the opposite. So negative 8/4 is read as the opposite of 8/4. Okay, so 8 divided by 4 is 2, of course. So the opposite of 2 would be negative 2. Okay, another way to think of this is with inverse operations. So if we have the fraction negative 8/4, we could say, well, what number, if I multiply it by 4, would give me negative 8? Well, if I multiplied 2 by 4, 2 times 4, of course, would just be a positive 8. So the answer would have to be negative 2. Okay, so the quotient has to be negative 2 because negative 2 times 4 would give us the negative 8. Okay, another way to think of this is if we have the negative out in front of the fraction, we could say, well, what number times 4 gives us 8? Well, of course, that would be 2. But if we want the whole thing to be negative, we would need to have a negative 2 right there. Okay, so the main thing that is really important for you to understand is that if you have a fraction that's where the fraction is negative, there's 3 different ways that you can write it, and they all mean the same thing. Okay, you can have the negative out in front of the entire fraction. You could have the negative with the numerator, or you can have the negative with the denominator. In all 3 of the scenarios, the answer here would be negative 2. Okay, so you could say for the first one, we can say 8 divided by 4 is 2, and now take the opposite. In the second one, it's like saying negative 8 divided by a positive 4 would give us negative 2. And in the last one, it's like saying 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. All 3 of these fractions are equivalent. Okay, let's look at one more. Again, if we have the negative in front of the fraction, the negative with the numerator, or the negative with the denominator, these are all equal. They all mean the same thing. Okay, if you divided this out and wrote it as a decimal, our answer here would be negative 0.6 repeating. In this case, we're not doing that. We're just making sure that you understand that there's 3 different ways to write negative fractions. Okay, and finally, don't be confused if you ever see variables instead of the numbers. Okay, so again, here we're saying if p and q are integers, well, then again, you can have the negative in front of that fraction, the negative with the numerator, or the negative with the denominator. All 3 of those things would result in the same answer. Okay, I hope that helps. Really, this is just understanding that there's 3 ways to write equivalent negative fractions. So go ahead and complete the note check, and if you have any questions, be sure to ask your teacher.